Hello, everyone. It's time for us to play something other than Tools Only Elden Ring. Like, I loved some parts of that challenge, and I loved routing it, and it feels so good to have it conquered, but at the same time, it feels really good to not be bashing my head against that wall for once. So, yeah. We are playing the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I'm a big fan of the Ace Attorney of the Phoenix Wright trilogy, so I've been looking forward to this. It looks like there are only 2 games in this set. I don't know what the special content is. We can change our outfit. Herlock Sholmes. Oh my. Ooh, I don't know. That second one might be a tad more stylish. Huh. I'm going to leave his outfit there because the other one just doesn't have the same effect. Like, at least with the other two, you could pretty reasonably swap between their outfits, and they still look like more or less the same person, but this guy's clearly got a theme going here, and I don't think this is it. Oh, they're only available in the Great Ace Attorney 2. Okay, well, that was kind of a waste of time then. Well, let's go for it. Oh my, it's animated.
The Empire of Japan. After opening its doors, a push for cultural transformation brought great waves of Western influence to this far eastern island nation. The revolution washed over the land, making life in the capital exciting and unsettling. It was a period of great change, and some were swept away by the tide.
Now, one thing I'll be watching for in this game is whether the music is quite as iconic as the Phoenix Wright trilogy.
Was just the beginning of an extraordinary story.
Interesting. How are we going to get out of this? Because I'm pretty sure that's who we're playing as. Hang on. I'm going to see... Oh, how fast can I make the text go? Still can't believe it. Still can't believe this is happening. How can it be that just beyond the doors to this quiet little chamber is the highest court in Japan, waiting to decide my fate? So hang on. Oh, that's nice. I can look back at previous text. What? Oh, no, nothing. Save your glares, murderer. Sorry. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a second-year student at the Imperial Yumei University. 3 days ago, I somehow found myself in the middle of a horrifying incident. And now here I am, awaiting my trial. That's enough. He's not obliged to listen to such abuse, officer. And who are you? I'm this man's lawyer. I'll be defending him today. Lawyer? Yes, and until the judge has given his verdict on the case, no one has the right to treat him as a criminal. So hold your tongue. Technicalities, look at you. You haven't even graduated yet. And yet, I still seem to know better than you how a court officer should behave. Right, Ryunosuke? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. What are you apologizing to me for? Oh, I suppose that wasn't really my fault, but I mean, I'm Canadian, okay? But really, Kazuma, I never meant to drag you into this. I'm sorry. There you go again. I'm trying to decide on voices, but I'm really bad at voices. There you go again, apologizing. Just like always, you really are Canadian. Ah. Though I must say, you've been all over the newspapers these past few days. They didn't know that Canadians were capable of murder. Yeah, I'm rolling with this. Ryunosuke is Canadian. Yumei University professor murdered in cold blood by student. But obviously, you didn't actually do it, did you? Of course not. You have to believe me. I didn't do it. You know me. I'm Canadian! I could never murder someone. Then there's nothing to worry about. Straighten yourself up, hold your head high. You mean... I believe you. I know you're innocent, Ryu. Yeah, I think I'm just going to shorten it to Ryu. Kazuma Sogi, my best friend, also in his second year at Yumei University. So this guy is 100% going to be the murder victim in the next case. I'm calling it here and now. But he's far more clever than I, a star student, in fact. He's even a qualified lawyer, impressive considering he's still an undergraduate. It's not that impressive. The very concept of lawyers is only a few years old, here in Japan anyway. My qualifications don't mean much yet. He said exactly the same thing 3 days ago, but I'm proud to have a friend like you, Kazuma. Truly. 3 days ago. Also, where's the breeze coming from? Because his headband is just flapping away, and the windows look like they're closed. How is there this much wind? Yes, that's when all this started. Or maybe he's the one who murdered the professor. Who knows? Congratulations, Kazuma. Looks like you're going to get to study abroad at last. I know, I've been forever dreaming of this day. Finally, those government elites have acknowledged my academic achievements and successes in court. So you'll be representing Japan as you immerse yourself in the most sophisticated legal system in the world. I'm really happy for you. I'm proud, as your friend. There's not a soul in the university who doesn't know Kazuma's name. He's a living legend. It's like there's some mysterious aura billowing around his temple. Oh, his aura is making the wind. I want to bring about change in our own legal system. That's why I have to cross the ocean, to see the real thing with my own eyes. The heart of the British Empire. I wish I could see it too. Then come with me. We'd have a wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's city of London together. If only it were that simple. Oh dear, look at the time. I'd better be going. Alright, I'll see you later. I think I'll stay and enjoy this place a while longer. Good idea. After all, it's not every day you get to visit a high-class Western restaurant like this. See you in English class tomorrow then, partner. It was straight after that. That's when it happened. Asogi, may I have a word? Professor, I didn't know you were coming. Well, this case has personal significance to me. But never mind that for now, Asogi. You should go immediately to the judge's chambers. To His Excellency's chambers? To His Excellency's chambers? Why? He was looking for you before. You advocating for the defense in this trial was a sudden decision. It seems there may be some confusion about procedures today as a result. Who is this man? I feel as though I've seen him at university before. I see. I'll go at once then. I shall accompany you. Alright then, Ryu. I'll see you in the courtroom. Is she the prosecutor? I feel like she might be the prosecutor. Probably not, but maybe. I really don't know. Yes. Thanks, Cosma. This is awkward. If I may... Yes, sorry? You must be the defendant, Ryunosuke Naruoto. I believe. Yes, that's right. My name is Eugene Mikotoba. I'm a professor of forensic medicine at Yumei University. Ah, Professor Mikotoba. I've heard that name from Kazuma before. As I recall, he's been pushing him to get the government to agree to Kazuma studying abroad. Asogi has told me about you. You and he are best friends, I understand. As such, I feel you should know. Know what? Well, as you've no doubt heard, Asogi has been granted permission to go and study in Great Britain. However, if he should fail to defend you in today's trial, I'm afraid that the permission will be revoked and never granted again. What? As I suspected, you were unaware of this. I had a feeling Asogi may have chosen not to tell you. And so now we're going to be given the option to plead guilty to help our friend. He's agreed to defend me, knowing that if he fails, his dreams will be shattered? But I don't understand. Why would the government do such a thing? The administration has to choose from a large number of applicants for overseas study. It's very difficult to persuade them to grant permission, even in the most favorable of circumstances. I don't believe it. But I didn't do it, I swear it. I'm not a murderer. I'm sure that's true. Nevertheless, I can assure you that proving your innocence will be no easy task. You see, there are certain peculiarities about today's trial. Sorry, what do you mean? You'll soon understand once the proceedings get underway. But then what should I do? Well, naturally, I'm not going to suggest doing anything that could lead to a conviction. Right, so as soon as the trial starts, the judge will pose a certain question to the defense. When that happens, you must answer before anyone else. You must say, "I do." I do? What will that question be? Surely not. Do you accept the accusations brought before you? Of course not. Defendant. Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. Okay, so I do have quick and easy save options. It would seem our surreptitious discussions are to be cut short. So allow me to summarize. Kazuma Sogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. Of course, as the defendant, the final decision is yours. What are you waiting for? Do you want to be found guilty for failing to appear? Get moving. There's no point in advocating for the likes of you anyway. This is it. If this trial goes badly, Kazuma's dreams of studying abroad are over, and what's more, I'll be found guilty of murder. And so, with absolutely no idea of what I lay ahead, I embarked on that unforgettable trial. My one and only chance of proving my innocence. The trial that would decide my destiny. Hang on, I just realized. Let's not capture the cursor on the window, because I have a feeling it's going to be there a lot. 22nd November, 9 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Courtroom 2. So this is a courtroom. Supreme Court of Judicature. No court in the land has more power. I don't much like the look of those people sitting in the public gallery. Lots of military and other uniforms in there. The powers of be have demanded that this be a secret trial. I'm not sure that's how that works, but I mean, I guess this is feudal Japan. A trial that's closed to ordinary members of the public. Only military and government officials may attend. What? But why? It'll become clear in time, but for now, you need to concentrate, Ryu. It's about to begin. It is required that the judge be thoroughly bearded. That's an important thing in this universe. Honestly, I respect the beard, though. Like, that's classy. Court will now hear the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. And that guy, if you've played the original... If you've played the Phoenix Wright trilogy, you probably recognize the look of this guy. He's clearly a reference to Mr. Pain. Ouchie. Oh my gosh, his name is Ouchie. I just got... The prosecution is ready. The prosecution is ready, Your Excellency. As is the defense. Before we begin, there is one point of order I would like to confirm. Yesterday evening, the defense made a last-minute request for a change of advocate. That's correct, Your Excellency. I made the request myself. Normal procedure is for the defendant's advocacy to be decided 2 days prior to the trial. As this is an unusual circumstance, I am obliged to ask for final confirmation now. Who advocates for the defendant in this trial? This is it. This must be the question. Who's going to defend me? That's the question the professor meant. So obviously I am planning to answer wrong, first off. But then, if I say I do, I need to answer quickly. What should I do? And now we're going to wait and see. Like, obviously we should answer I do, but... because that's how we clearly become a lawyer here, but... Kazuma is the lawyer here. I can't defend myself. If I said I do, it would be tantamount to lying. And I've been accused of murder, for goodness sake. This is no time for lies. Try to stop fidgeting, Ryunosuke. It's distracting. If I don't say I'll defend myself now, things could end very badly for my friend. Your Excellency, no confirmation is needed. As I'm standing here beside the defendant. Oh. What's the meaning of this unruly outburst? I would like to inform the court that I, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, will be defending myself. You'll be... What? What are you playing at, Ryunosuke? Professor Mikotoba told me everything, just now before the trial. He did what? He said that your dreams of studying abroad would be dashed if you were to lose. How sad. It means you don't have faith in me. You think I won't be able to get you off. Okay, that was worded poorly. No, it's not that, really. It's just that... Well, on the off chance that things don't go well for me, I couldn't bear to be the reason that you... Yes. I knew that's how you'd feel, which is exactly why I decided not to tell you. Professor Mikotoba shouldn't have stuck his nose in.
Very well. The court hereby recognizes the defendant's desire to advocate for himself in today's trial.
Well, well. Does the accused admit defeat already? Renouncing his own counsel, really?
Objection!
Make no mistake, counsel. This merely shows that the defendant's innocence is so apparent. He's confident he can speak for himself. Isn't that so, Naruhodo-san? Oh, yes, exactly. Exactly what I wasn't thinking. I'm not confident at all. But I'm Canadian. I can't disagree with him. In fact, my mind's a complete blank. I realize you're in charge now, but still, try not to look so bewildered.
Well, for a mere university student to be brought before the Supreme Court, you must have perpetrated a most heinous crime indeed.
You don't know what the crime is? Like, hold on a second. Have you read any of the material relating to the crime or anything?
As you are no doubt aware, this is the Supreme Court of Judicature in Japan. Accordingly, the very highest standards of conduct are expected of all present. Do I make myself clear, Defendant Naruhodo?
I'm really tempted to just make it Defendant Naruto and, like, just switch it to something that I know I can pronounce on a dime. Yes, Your Excellency.
It is therefore my duty to assess your competence for the task you have undertaken.
My competence? He's questioning your ability to do the job, which is reasonable. Well, he can't be questioning it more than I am. So let's start with the very simplest of questions. Yes. Kindly state before the court the name of the victim in this case. Well, that's easy enough. I've heard his name more times than I care to remember. But wait. I'm so nervous I can't even remember that. What was it again? Ryunosuke. Okay, we're going to learn how to check the court record. Let me guess, your mind's gone blank. You know me so well. All the relevant information for this case can be found in the court record. But I can't even find that. It's simple. You can access the court record with a press of E. If you ever find you've forgotten something, just consult that. It's all in there. Oh. I'm a student at Imperial Yume University. I can present that. A list of evidence. John H. Wilson. Now let's see. We've got this game's equivalent of the attorney's badge, and we've got a post-mortem report. November 19th, shortly after 2 p.m. Cause of death, bullet fired at close range, fatal hemorrhage from pectoral, ballistic trauma, no exit wound, bullet did not pass through the body. Takasuchi Ouchi. Now you better not keep His Excellency waiting any longer. Go on. Find the victim in the people section, and press R, blah blah blah. The victim's name was Dr. John H. Wilson.
Well, at least you can remember the name of an esteemed member of your own university.
He wasn't a member of our university. Welcome to the stream, Rafkin. And yep, new game. And welcome to the stream, Lastborn. Dr. Wilson was a visiting professor from England, invited to Yume University 3 years ago. Okay, so he was a professor at our university. Thank you for the hydrate, Lastborn. And... oh. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have changed Windows to show turd. But let us bring forth the turd. It is he. Look at him, he's so happy. I am kind of loving this music, though. I don't know if it's quite as, like, excellent as the Phoenix Wright trilogy yet, but yes, it is Turg. He's just Turgin. Welcome to the stream, B. Indeed, which is the reason why this case has such profound implications. The British Empire is at present our country's most valuable foreign ally. And as most of you will be aware, we have just signed a new treaty together after lengthy negotiations. There can't be anyone who hasn't heard of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. Dang, that is a cumbersome title.
And yet, despite these delicate circumstances, the blood of an Englishman has been spilt on our soil. You two are both undergraduates at the Imperial Yume University, are you not? Murdering a professor from the very institution that provides your education, have you no honor?
But I didn't do it. The case is coming under great scrutiny from our allies on the other side of the world. The court therefore wishes for a speedy resolution to this matter. In other words, our feeble government is scared of upsetting England's policymakers. And you're a convenient and expendable scapegoat to blame for this crime. So that's why this trial has these unusual peculiarities, is it? Exactly. Our government needs to convict someone as quickly as possible. All because the victim was an Englishman. Yes, Dr. Wilson was an Englishman. But nationalities and treaties won't make any difference for me here. The fact is, I was there at the scene of the crime. Ooh, we got a flashback. Oh dear, look at the time. I better be going. Alright, I'll see you later. I think I'll stay and enjoy this place a little longer. Good idea. After all, it's not every day you get to visit a high-class Western restaurant. See you in English class tomorrow then, partner. The British Empire. Wow, it's incredible to think... Wait. I've seen that man at university. I'm sure he's a visiting professor from Great Britain. I don't know his name, but still, I should go and say hello. So I went over to the professor's table and introduced myself to Dr. Wilson. Now then, let me pose my next question to you, Defendant Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency. How did the Professor of Medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson, lose his life? State before the court the cause of death. Ryu, remember that in court, every assertion must be backed by evidence. By evidence? But how? Find the piece of evidence that shows the professor's cause of death and select present. Do it now.
Yes!
Well, according to this document, the victim suffered a hemorrhagic death due to gunshot trauma. Learn to read, you imbecile. That's the post-mortem report, I take it. Sorry, yes, that's right.
the post-mortem report. In the West, a doctor dissects corpses to identify the cause of death in an autopsy. But here in Japan, a police officer merely inspects the body and draws conclusions that way. Oh, I see. As long as I'm not going to be tested on any of this later. This is a so-called photographic print of the scene of the crime. You can clearly discern scorch marks around the bullet. Hole produced by the powder explosion. In other words, we should assume that the victim was shot at close range.
Thank you, counsel. The court will accept this modern scientific evidence into the record.
Photograph of victim. So that's a photographic print. Well, that's something I've never seen before. It's clearly superior to a drawing. The detail is incredible.
Very well, I am satisfied with your answers. Let us start the trial.
Certainly, Your Excellency. So without further ado, in order to better apprise the court with the facts of the case, the prosecution hereby calls its first witness, who was there at the scene of the crime when it happened.
Okay, so this is presumably the real murderer. This is it, then. I think I may have worked out what the professor had in mind. Professor? You mean Dr. Mikotoba? Yes, clearly you're the defense lawyer today, not me, but that doesn't mean... Well, I can still act as your assistant. Ah, of course. When he was speaking with me before, he simply said, Kazuma Asogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. He really has been sticking his oar in, hasn't he? Maybe, but any help you can give me would be greatly appreciated, Kazuma. Well, my first piece of advice is rein in that crazy look of bewilderment and control the cold sweats. Only if you rein in that crazy headband and control the cold stares first.
Witness, state your name and occupation for the court, please.
Of course. Of course. My name is Satoru Hosonaga. I am the head waiter at a Western-style restaurant called La Carnival. Ahem. Why are you bleeding from the mouth? Are you alright? You seem to be coughing up some... It's a regular occurrence. It really doesn't bother me. Well, it really should. As everyone knows, the capital's southeastern quarter was developed for foreign visitors some years ago. It's become a very fashionable district now, full of hotels to accommodate overseas guests. The grim crime occurred in one of the district's so-called restaurants, an Occidental eatery, 3 days ago.
Understood. Hosonaga-san, you will kindly tell the court everything you can about the incident. At once, sir.
And no petty interjections from the aspiring lawyer boy, please.
Oh, perspiring, maybe, but aspiring? It was just after 2 p.m. on the day in question. We have few diners at that time of day. The lunchtime rush was over, and there were only 3 tables still occupied. That fits in with my memory of it, too. So, real quick, was it after or before 2 p.m.? After. Okay, so he's going to be left-handed, and I have a feeling that'll be relevant. Because the only details in this picture, really, are the bullet hole and the fork being on the left-hand side. I'm afraid I'm dying. Hang on. It was when I was in the kitchen putting away crockery and cutlery. A gunshot rang out, so I hurried to the dining area to see what had happened. I found the victim, an English gentleman, slumped in his chair, and standing immediately beside him, gun in hand, was the accused university student. Hold on, let me just clarify something here. While I did pick up a gun that I found lying on the floor beside the professor, I didn't shoot him.
I believe I asked you to refrain from petty interjections. The court wishes to listen to the witness's report of what he saw, you amateur.
But the next time you interrupt at an inappropriate time, you will be penalized, Defendant Naruhodo. Don't worry, Ryu. You'll have your chance to fight back. For now, we must just quietly listen to the witness.
If I may confirm one point, waiter, standing beside the victim with a gun in his hand was the same man we see here in court today?
Yes, without question.
I see. And apart from the accused, was there anyone else standing beside the victim?
No. There was no one else around that table but the deceased Englishman and the university student. Wait, what did he just say? There was no one else around that table? What's the matter, Ryu? That's just not right. When I went over to Dr. Wilson to say hello, there was a woman sitting opposite him at his table. Really? And that's not something the waiter could have missed. I've been warned about interjecting, but still, what should I do? I don't have any evidence to prove that someone else was there yet. I desperately want to say something, but I was told not to interject. Ryunosuke, if your parents tell you to study, you're the kind of man who would diligently get to work, aren't you? I suppose I am. I'd never have gotten into Yume University otherwise. But you can't just always follow the rules in life, you know? If you don't say what you want to say right now, you'll seriously regret it when you're found guilty. Alright, you scared me. I won't forget that piece of advice in a hurry. And there is something I want to say. I'm just going to shut my eyes and say it. Where's the objection? I don't want yes, I want objection. Come on, give me a sec. Just a moment, please. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone that day. I'm sure of it. There was a lady sitting with him at the same table.
Dear me, what are we going to do with you? With your blatant disregard for court proceedings, I'm beginning to wonder if you're not a fraud. Could it be that the accused, this mere student, is not a real lawyer after all? But I'm sure of what I saw. Osunaga-san, is there any chance you're mistaken? Perhaps your memory of the events is hazy? No. The deceased gentleman came to dine alone. I don't believe it. I actually have a rough plan of the restaurant as it was that day. Please have a look if you'd like to. Let me see. A sketch of the establishment layout, drawn by yourself, I presume. That's right. I'm afraid I used the back of my business card. It was a turbulent situation. However, as you can see, the gentleman in question was seated alone. I really can't. You're going to need to describe this thing in a bit more detail. I'm here. I just had to go and turn on the fan. Well, you're clearly a very conscientious waiter. Thank you, sir. The court will take this plan and add it to the court record as evidence. Oh, well... Is there a problem? Hand the plan to the court officer at once. Of course. Here you are. What was that all about? He's been completely calm and collected up till now. Something seems to have shaken him. A waiter's business card has been entered into the court record. So, the court has now heard a précis of the case. Yes, at the moment the gunshot was heard in the restaurant, the only person in close proximity to the victim was the defendant on trial today. It would seem we are looking at a black and white case here. Defendant Naruhodo? Yes, Your Excellency. If you admit to your guilt at this stage, the court is willing to look mercifully upon you. In other words, you may have some small reprieve in terms of your inevitable punishment. I called this waiter as an unsworn witness in order to explain the details of the case to the court. But I must warn the defense, if you are determined to pursue matters further in this trial, the prosecution has decisive evidence from sworn witnesses who were present at the scene of the crime. I don't know what the difference is between a sworn and unsworn witness, so I kind of hope the game explains that. What do you think I should do, Kazuma? What do you mean? Well, I'm going to be found guilty one way or another, it seems. Wouldn't it be sensible to plead guilty at this stage and hope for a more lenient sentence? Everyone keeps telling me that this trial is unusual about these peculiarities. As you've said it, Professor Mitakoba said it, and so is the judge and the prosecution. I'm scared of what lies ahead if I push this. As I said from the outset, I believe you're innocent. I trust you. And yet, despite knowing that, you're willing to now throw that trust back in my face? Is that it? What? If the accused is in fact innocent, then a defense lawyer is duty-bound to prove that innocence by whatever means necessary. Are you just going to abandon that duty? Are you going to give up on yourself? The battle hasn't even begun yet, Ryu. The defense pleads not guilty, Your Excellency. We invite the prosecution to stop making empty threats and bring out its witnesses. I want to look at this, though.
I can't tell who is where. And I can't look at the other side of the card. I feel like that's going to be relevant. Oh, I see. That just says kitchen and entrance. So, if the guy came from the kitchen, and this is where the death occurred, there was probably part of it that was out of his view given this wall here. Then we'll see just how decisive this evidence really is. It's gonna be so sad when this guy dies.
Indeed. Professor Ouchie, Prosecutor Ouchie, please continue with your proceedings. With the proceedings.
Well, you were warned. The young can be so reckless. You know, many call me a saint, but I can be a devil when I want to be. You don't want to cross me. I'll mess you up. In a few short moments from now, that dumbstruck young mouth of yours will be silenced forever. The prosecution calls its next witness.
Very well. Officer, bring forth the witnesses at once.
Witnesses, kindly state your names and occupations for the court.
Yes, sir. The Great Nippon Imperial Army Sergeant Yasanosa, reporting for duty. Yasanosa. Yeah. Why do I get the feeling this might be the gumshoe equivalent? Myself, I find employ a purveyor of the finest articles of antiquity from the efflorescence of our nation Nippon, and conduct my trade from Rasute, a humble premises in the 2nd District. Curio Korekuta. Curio Korekuta, at your service.
An antique dealer and a soldier. What an unusual pairing.
Both of these gentlemen were present at the restaurant on the day in question.
It must be the diners at the other table that the waiter mentioned.
Myself, I habitually take tea of the most exquisite aroma at the establishment in question, always post-noon, and not infrequently converse with interested parties regarding the curios which I make my business.
I can't understand a word that old man is saying. He's an antique dealer. It sounds like he's a regular at La Carnival. He seeks out potential customers who may have an interest in antiques and tries to sell his wares to them. He obviously targets La Carnival because it's a high-class restaurant with rich clientele. Right, I see. Although, to be honest, that sergeant looks more like he'd be a seller rather than a buyer.
Now, you both witnessed the precise moment of this most atrocious accident. Incident. Hang on.
Incident, yeah.
Is that correct?
Affirmative. The enemy unit was seen attacking the foreigner in what can only be described as an act of war, sir. It was that black uniformed rogue infantryman over there who unloaded his firearms, sir.
This man's as impossible to understand as the other. But I'm almost sure I heard a strange noise during that last thing that he said. So, this is the decisive evidence the prosecution was threatening.
Soldier is claiming that he actually saw the precise moment you shot the victim dead.
Yeah.
Well, are you starting to feel uncomfortable? If I'm honest, I was feeling uncomfortable from the start. Now the courtroom will hear your formal testimony. Please. You will say everything you saw at the precise moment that the incident occurred. Yes, sir. Standing by to report, sir.
Unsavory memories of a most acerbic afternoon.
So why do they have two people testifying at once? That seems strange. Thank you for the hydrate, lastborn.
I was ingesting a regulation beef steak at the restaurant while having a tactical discussion with the old man.
Myself, I was extolling the virtues of a particularly fine golden curio to the military gentleman.
At that precise moment, a firearm was discharged. I observed the enemy's actions with my own eyes. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian, and from the back the cowardly little weasel.
Okay, so there's the contradiction. I don't know if I said it, but thank you for the hydrate, lastborn. I think I may have already said it, but I'm not sure. I took a drink, but I don't know if I acknowledged the redeem.
I was on my hands and knees investigating the whereabouts of my mysteriously absconded precious curio.
Well, so you, Sergeant Nosa, you witnessed the trial, witnessed the vital moment. You saw the split second when the defendant fired the weapon at the vehicle. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. That wicked university cadet, sir. The cruel and unforgivable enemy.
Why did you just pull out a knife? What times we live in, when an English gentleman may be assailed in the broad light of day.
But this is ridiculous. I didn't shoot anyone. Is that really true, Ryu? Yes, all I did was pick up the gun that I saw lying on the floor. After I'd said hello to Dr. Wilson, I went back to my table and sat drinking some coffee. Then, when I'd finished, I got up from my seat to leave the restaurant, when I noticed an English-made gun next to the chair where the professor was sitting. I thought perhaps the professor had dropped it. So I bent down, and just as I was picking it up, bang! Well, if that's the truth, there was obviously a criminal on the scene somewhere. Maybe it's Yasunosa. And somewhere in these two witnesses' testimonies, there's a clue as to who that criminal was. There is? Ryunosuke. You must exercise your right to cross-examine the witnesses. Cross-examine. Do it now. I mean, has he been studying to be an attorney? Like, if he has, then he should probably know that much.
As we have heard, Your Excellency, there is no room for doubt in the testimony of these witnesses. The defendant is clearly guilty. It is time to bring this despicable student to justice.
Certainly, the testimony of the court as just heard eliminates any vestige of doubt. Therefore, it is my grave duty to declare the verdict of this trial.
Seriously, they should have stuck with objection.
What in the name of the Emperor is the meaning of this outburst?
The defense demands its right to a cross-examination. Ah, the sound effects.
Dear me, let me guess. The hockey-mocky headband boy next door told me to do it. How pathetic.
Huh? How did he know?
The prosecution objects. This is a clear waste of time. The defendant obviously has no experience. How can he possibly carry out a cross-examination?
Objection!
The defense is asserting its right to a cross-examination. Whether or not you think he's capable of it is irrelevant.
Oh,
Kazuma is so commanding. Very well. Let the defense conduct a cross-examination of the witnesses. Alright, this is where the battle really begins, Ryu. But I don't even know what I have to do in a cross-examination. Isn't it obvious? You have to expose the lies in the witnesses' statements. How? You didn't fire the gun, which means what the soldier said has to be a lie. Well, yes, but it's just a case of proving it, and the key to doing that is the evidence. Right, evidence. All you need to do is present some decisive and indisputable evidence that proves the witness is lying. Now let's go, Ryu. Don't let them beat you. Alright then. It's all or nothing. Okay, so we're starting up a cross-examination. I think it's probably a good idea to drop a save here before I mess something up. I mean, this is a tutorial level. It's pretty obvious where the contradiction is. Tactical discussion. Extolling the virtues of a fine golden curio to the military gentleman. Blah, blah, blah. From the back, cowardly little weasel.
Yes!
Objection. Okay, seriously, stop raising your hand. You're not a schoolboy here. You're an attorney and a defendant. Ooh, he be sweating. What are you playing at, cadet? What is the meaning of this subordination? Thrusting some photographic print in my mustache? Inconsistency, sir. I mean, yes. There's a clear inconsistency here. A contradiction, if you will.
what nonsense! What can this print possibly tell us that we don't already know?
Well, obviously. That's, I know what I want to say, but the words just won't come out of my mouth.
I think this proves beyond any doubt, Your Excellency, there's no place for an amateur student here in this grand courtroom.
This is so frustrating. Yeah, I don't know why you're not saying anything. Oh, please. Surely this doesn't require an explanation. It couldn't be more plain. Spell it out would be an insult to the court. Kazuma, what are you talking about? It's apparent from a single glance at the photographic print presented by the defense that there's a clear discrepancy here with the sergeant's statement. What? Sergeant Yasunosa? Yes, sir. What is it, sir? The statement you just made was this. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian, and from the back, the cowardly little weasel. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. I witnessed the crime with my own military-grade eyes, sir. Ah, so it was purchased. It was obtained through the lowest bidder.
Yes!
But no, that just can't be. And why not, cadet? Because, take a close look at the print. The victim, Dr. Wilson, died from a bullet wound to the chest. Ah. Sergeant, according to your witness statement, the culprit shot the victim from behind. And that is the obvious discrepancy here. Well, how do you explain it? He has a child on his back. Why does he have a child on his back? Oh, what was that? Something just popped up from behind his back, but he pushed it down again.
Certainly there's a clear discrepancy with the facts here. Would you not agree, Sergeant Nosa?
Yes, sir. At this juncture, that would appear to be indisputable. Until the moment I heard the firearm discharge, my eyes were firmly fixed on the delicious La Carnival steak, sir.
What?
The last testimony of the court heard has proven one thing beyond all reasonable doubt. This witness, Sergeant Yesanosa, did not see the defendant firing a gun at all.
That's absurd.
I think the conclusion we must draw is simple. There's no place for an amateur prosecutor here in this grand courtroom. Well, let's keep the amateur prosecutor. It greatly improves my odds of getting released. Inconsistency seer. I got an achievement. There's been a complete turnabout in the mood of this trial just from that one discrepancy. That little turn. So this is what being an ace attorney is all about. But I definitely saw him. That university cadet there, he was pointing the firearm directly at the victim's back. Sure. But I never fired the gun. All I did was pick it up off the floor.
And you, old man, you didn't see the moment the victim was shot either?
Myself, I have already been quite clear. The gunshot interested me not. I was far too busy on the floor.
Too busy on the floor. Sorry, but what were you doing?
Hunting for treasure.
Treasure?
Indeed, the Hoei era Koban, my prized coin. On each occasion when I visit that restaurant, it is my habitude to place in my bosom pocket a particular trinket of interest from my shop rasute.
In the hope of meeting a rich diner who might like to buy it from you?
On the day under scrutiny, it was to the military man that I proffered my Hoei treasure. I believe that he would purchase such a rare find. I did not. But I was presented with little alternative. And then, after averting my eyes for the briefest of moments, it was there no more. It simply vanished.
See, now, his claim that there was no alternative seems surprisingly questionable. Because that means that he had no one else that he had the opportunity to try and convince to buy his goods. But there was a professor there. And somehow, I imagine that the professor sitting there with his lady friend would probably have been a better mark than a sergeant in the military. Wealthy Englishman versus dad taking care of his child while at lunch. Like, it's kind of obvious which one you try and sell to.
The Koban vanished? Hunting around under the table, I was, in case mayhap it had fallen. Hunting around under the table, I was, in case mayhap it had fallen there. Then it happened.
You heard the gunshot, you mean?
Indeed I did, but I heeded it not, for I was concerned only with finding my absconded Hoey treasure. Nothing could distract me.
Out of interest, did you find the coin in the end? No. I see.
That lamentable day, the precious Hoey Koban was lost to me. No doubt some unscrupulous scoundrel pocketed the prize coin for himself.
As I'm sure everyone present is aware, this case demands a swift and decisive resolution. Our government has promised to send a full report to Great Britain by telegraph this very afternoon. Nevertheless, the witness testimony the court has just heard was inconclusive. No matter how subservient our government feels it must be to the British, it would be unforgivable to deliver a verdict on this trial right now. What is your position, Prosecutor Ouchie?
Worry not, Your Excellency. The defendant may have fled a tiger at the front gate, but he will find a wolf at the back. My witnesses have further testimony to make.
Explain.
Upon hearing their next statements, it will become abundantly clear that there is only one person who could possibly have committed this despicable crime. The equally despicable defendant, Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
What? He really seems to have a despicable opinion of you, doesn't he?
Very well. The court invites the witnesses to testify again. You will thoroughly explain the reasoning behind the prosecution's allegation. Is that clear?
As clear as Kiriko glass, Your Excellency.
Yes, sir. At once, sir. Awaiting signal to testify, sir.
Excuse me, but there's something or someone peeking out over your shoulder, I think.
Affirmative. The newest member of the Nosa family. To rise up through the ranks, sir. Name, I don't know, sir.
I don't know, sir. It would seem those straps are a sign of the sergeant being too strapped to afford a nanny.
Ido, Teen Shun. Your father is about to quell the enemy. Watch and learn, my boy.
The true culprit.
Even if what I saw wasn't the precise moment the firearm was discharged, it's almost the same thing.
Yes, pointing his gun at the foreign man he was, that young lad in black. That much I myself did see.
Furthermore, a visual search of the premises at the time confirmed that we were the only personnel present.
Indeed, alone he was, the Englishman, dining all by himself.
Therefore, no one other than the black uniformed cadet could have dispatched the Englishman. Over and out. These testimonies are certainly compelling. Wait, that's nonsense. The victim, Dr. Wilson, wasn't alone at all.
Please, enough of these outbursts already.
There was a young woman at his table. You must have seen her. Everyone there must have seen her.
If you call yourself a lawyer, then you will respect the rules of the court and speak accordingly. We are not here to listen to your fantasies. It is evident beyond all reasonable doubt that the victim was alone at the time of the incident. The prosecution has photographic evidence of this fact.
This is a photographic print of the scene of the crime, Counsel.
Indeed, of the table at which the victim was dining, taken by an investigator immediately after the incident. As can plainly be seen, there is only one place set.
Certainly, based on the appearance of this print, it would be reasonable to conclude that the victim was not in the company of anyone else.
This doesn't make any sense.
The court will add this new photographic evidence to the record.
Crime scene photograph.
I don't understand. What's going on here?
It's just not possible that nobody else saw that woman.
The waiter before said the same thing. He maintains that Dr. Wilson came to the restaurant alone as well.
That's not true. I saw her. I swear that I saw a woman with him.
It would seem that we'll be able to telegraph the report to Great Britain on time after all. The witness testimonies we have just heard leave no further room for doubt.
These are very sensitive political times, as we all know. The ink is still fresh on the treaty with Great Britain. To think that I, Takasuchi Ouchi, will have contributed to the amity of these two great empires is an honor.
How can this be happening? The judge is ready to rule. Stand tall, Ryunosuke. It's not over yet. What? If what you say is true, then there's something going on here behind the scenes. And now's your chance to expose it, to draw out the truth in your cross-examination. I don't know, Kazuma. And this is where we'll learn to press.
The defense is entitled to cross-examine the witnesses, but make it quick, understood?
Rules can be so unbending at times.
I'm very tempted to try going to controller. I thought keyboard and mouse would be easier. I'm not entirely certain at this point. Alright, let's start pressing, because I didn't see any blatant contradictions there. It's not the same thing at all. I didn't fire that gun. You have a difference of opinion on that. The opinion of a uniformed officer versus that of a fledgling cadet. I don't think so.
Consider this, defendant. Just a moment ago, I blinked.
Did you?
Did you see it? Did you see me blink?
How could I?
And yet, it is an undeniable fact that I did blink.
I deny it. I full-on deny it. You have never blinked in your life, as a matter of fact. There's no evidence to support the claim that you have.
So, there you have it. Have what?
Attention! The sound of the firearm rang in my ears the very next moment, and the very next moment, I saw you waving the gun at the Englishman.
I think that says it all, don't you? And let us not forget that the antiques dealer witnessed the accused in this most incriminating position as well. Isn't that so, Korekuta-san?
Except he certainly didn't. Because he was under the table, and he said that he completely ignored the shot. Yes, it may be true that I was holding the gun at the time,
But I've told you already, that's only because I picked it up off the floor.
Well, obviously, as the culprit, that's the only way you could explain it away.
I had just finished drinking my coffee and was about to leave the restaurant when I noticed a gun on the floor at Dr. Wilson's feet, so I picked it up. I'm going to take a look at that photo in the court record. I don't feel like the magnifying glass actually makes all that much of a difference. Oh, maybe that's the contradiction. Picked it up. At exactly that moment, bang. A gunshot rang in my ears.
Full of events beyond our control, life is.
Sorry, what do you mean?
In your case, you found a pistol on the floor and picked it up, which precipitated this testing predicament. Whereas conversely, I failed to pick up the Koban from the floor, and find myself in an equally testing predicament as a result.
Okay, so Yasanosa stole his coin. He was on the floor looking for it. And there is no way that he would have Okay, why can't I... Oh, there we go. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to drop a save because I'm being a bit premature with this presentation of evidence. Really? I can't present him. I can't present his earlier statement.
Yes!
Okay.
Objection!
It's already past 2 p.m. when it happened. Quiet time between lunch and dinner in any restaurant. Yes, Your Excellency, there was indeed a reason.
This was found in the victim's jacket pocket.
What is that, Counsel?
It is a medical report card, Your Excellency. It would seem that the victim had an appointment at a clinic prior to visiting the restaurant.
Oh no. Please tell me we're not about to see the return of Director Hottie. Please, no. Yes, there would indeed appear to be an entry for the date in question. 19th November, noon to past 1 p.m. The very day of the incident.
So the victim went for a late lunch following his appointment. The explanation couldn't be more simple. The prosecution felt no need to submit this evidence before, as it really has no bearing on the case.
I wonder. What do you think, Ryunosuke? Well, it's hard to see how it could be related, really. Remember, you can request for it to be entered into the court record as evidence if you think it could be useful.
Yes, absolutely add that to it. Especially since it probably references that he was there with his wife or something.
If I may, I'd like to ask for that medical report card to be submitted as evidence, Your Excellency.
On what grounds?
Mm-hmm.
The court has already heard conclusive witness testimony. Additional evidence would be extraneous. Not to mention the victim's moments prior to his arrival at the restaurant are of no concern.
Whether or not they are of concern is up to us to decide. We have a right to explore all possible avenues.
I beg your pardon?
You have no authority to refuse a perfectly valid request for the submission of evidence. Very well. The court will grant the defense's request.
Youngsters these days are forever asserting their rights. It's a most disturbing trend.
Officer, kindly add the victim's medical report card to the court record. Found in the victim's pocket. What we need right now is new clues. We have to explore things from every possible angle, even if they don't seem relevant at first. Right, I hear you.
You can conspire to prolong this trial as much as you like, but it's the day after the festival already for you.
I wonder if these are actual sayings in Japan.
Or perhaps you'd forgotten that these witness testimonies leave no room for doubt. Feel free to reiterate for the accused, Korikuta-san.
Alright, I want to see this now. Really? I can't examine it more closely? So I'm not seeing any obvious contradictions between the two pictures, first of all.
Yes.
So you actually saw that with your own eyes, did you? The victim, Dr. Wilson, dining alone.
That I did. Forgive me for the position I place you in. So the testimonies of the old man, the soldier, and the waiter all agree on that point. Isn't that interesting? And let us not forget the incontestable evidence we have to support their statements as well. As can clearly be seen, there is only a single beefsteak on the victim's table, a meal for one.
No. The antique dealer, the sergeant, and the waiter who testified before. It's not impossible that they're all lying. But if so, then why? If I'm perfectly honest, I have absolutely no idea. Okay, I think...
Yes.
Unfortunately, there isn't really enough detail on this card to establish much of anything. We don't know where the other people were sitting. We don't know where the waiter entered the room from. But I don't know that it really matters because they do seem to be trying to cover up for this woman. Like, at this point, there's no way they didn't see her, which means they are deliberately trying to hide her presence.
And if no such proof exists, the prosecution demands that no further mention of this phantom woman be made. It is a blatant waste of the court's time.
There's nothing I can say to that. Excellent work, Ryunosuke. We've gleaned some new information now. Well, yes, but I don't feel like it changes much. I can't see that it brings any real discrepancies to light. I wouldn't be so sure. Let me see that medical report card. I wanted to look at it. It wouldn't let me. You mean this? Yes, this is a brand new piece of evidence. So perhaps we should examine it in a little more detail. Okay, now I can examine it. Oh. All right. Hata Clinic. He's had a cold once in his life. Most people would give their right arm to have had only one cold in their whole life. First issued some time ago. Long-term treatment with a family doctor. Healthy curiosity for having thoroughly examined the medical report card inside and out. I haven't examined it inside yet. Entry for the day the professor was killed. Extraction of molar with topical anesthesia. He couldn't have been eating a steak. Cautionary note from the medical practitioner as well. Strictly no food or drink besides water for 3 hours post-procedure until anesthetic effects have passed. This is new information. Meaning of that one particular statement totally changes. There we go. Now we can turn this around. Number of questions. It's supposed to show the relative position of everything in the moments following the incident. There's nothing to show the woman you say you saw there. That's not all. Look in the upper left where it says kitchen. What of it? No one would use those complicated characters to write kitchen. Especially not if they were in a hurry. You mean you don't remember those characters yourself, do you? Study harder, Ryunosuke. Chief Inspector Satoru Hosanaga, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau. That's unexpected. Look, do you see it says the witness's name here? Business cards do tend to show the person's name. That's sort of the point. It's not the name that's unexpected, it's his job title. His job? Chief Inspector, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau. Inspector, what on earth? I have no idea. But let's face it, the police have a lot of power and influence. If they're wielding it somehow here... Hosanaga-san is a police inspector. There we go. Alright, we should have the evidence we need now. And I think this is the statement to present it on. And the music cut off, which I'm pretty sure means I'm right. Well, I think,
What are you wittering, lad? Call yourself a lawyer?
I wish I could. But first and foremost here, I'm the accused. Ryunosuke, everyone stumbles on their words occasionally. Under the circumstances, I wouldn't worry about it. Thanks. I could see it quite clearly in that cross-examination you just carried out. When you raised your hand straight up like that, so purposefully, you knew exactly what it was you wanted to say. Don't feel like you have to choose your words carefully. Just say what you're thinking. Alright, thanks for the advice. Korekuta-san, This is a medical report card belonging to the victim.
Ah, I see. And I don't see. What of it, boy?
Comparing what is written on this report card with your witness statement, something clearly doesn't add up.
Dear me, have you forgotten my words so soon, you amateur?
Sorry, what?
You are not to interrupt court proceedings with your amateurish drivel. Let's see if I can explain it in words you might understand. It was after 2 p.m. in the afternoon when the victim was murdered at the restaurant. Whatever he may or may not have done before that time is completely irrelevant.
But that's, remember, Ryunosuke, you don't have to use clever language or fancy words. Just make your point.
Your Excellency, I believe we're finished here. There is surely no need to prolong this trial further. The witness testimonies the court has heard have been clear and concise. This medical report card has no bearing on the matter at all, for the simple reason that there is no one else beside this pale-faced pupil who could possibly have perpetrated the kind.
This medical report card has nothing to do with the case? Do you really believe that?
What? That outburst half petrified me, boy. Of course I believe it. How could it possibly be relevant?
Perhaps because Hata Clinic, which issued the report card, is a dental clinic. Yep, drivel.
A dental clinic? Is that supposed to mean something to me?
Perhaps if I told you that the victim had just had a tooth extracted?
What's this now?
And furthermore, if I told you that as a result the victim had been forbidden from eating. Just what are you trying to say, Cadet? He had orders not to eat, so what? It's all written up in here. No food or drink other than water for 3 hours post-procedure while the anesthesia wears off.
What? No, that can't...
Koreikuta-san.
What, boy? What?
As you just heard, when he was killed sometime shortly after 2 p.m., the victim couldn't have been eating anything at all.
No.
Additionally, there's more. You have assured the court with unwavering self-confidence that the victim was dining alone. But that cannot possibly be the case. Because the victim, as we know, wasn't dining. Had just had one of his teeth extracted, and was still experiencing the effects of the anesthetic. The giant drops of sweat are kind of a staple. Expertly done, partner.
What is this nonsense, you little upstart, you stinking Canadian? I can't believe you're arguing with me. That's against your entire culture.
Again, I have just kind of headcanoned that Ryunosuke is Canadian. Or perhaps that modern-day Canadians are descendants of Ryunosuke.
These are just baseless accusations. Just look at this photographic evidence. You can clearly see the plate of food at the victim's table.
Use your head. That's the very discrepancy we're talking about. Or can't you follow the logic?
How dare you? Why? Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that the tables in this restaurant case have turned. Wouldn't you agree, Ryu? Yes, most definitely. He looks so stressed. So having just undergone some dental surgery, the victim was unable to eat.
Which leaves one very crucial conundrum. Who, in fact, was eating the pictured beefsteak? That steak proves that there was, in fact, someone else there. Council? Oh, that means me. Yep. Alright, the answer to this question is going to be pivotal. This is the start of you turning this trial around. Show them what you're made of. Got it. So, the person eating the steak at the victim's table must have been... Hang on. I'm sorry, but I have to. It was me.
Yes!
I think it may have been me. What? It's not enough that you took the man's life, but you took his meal as well. That's a bee sting on a crying face. Some people seem to think they can do whatever they like. And some people seem to think they can say whatever they like. Ryunosuke. Sorry, you're right. Of course I didn't eat it. The next time you make a quip like that, I'll make you eat your words. Then you'll be needing some dental surgery yourself. Oh, right. I get the message. I was just trying to bring in some of that good old Canadian humor, eh? The two witnesses. I bet it was the sergeant and the antique dealer. Nosa-san and Korikuta-san. Ah. Are you taking the cake, cadet? You think I'd share rations with this decrepit graybeard? Insult me by associating with this brutish carnivore, would you? You were both present at the scene. Neither of you can deny that you had the opportunity. You addle-brained idiot. I had my own regulation beefsteak set before me at my own table. And as any soldier worth his salt will tell you, seize whatever rations are put in front of you. Now that I can understand. It would seem you may need to reconsider your answer, Counsel. Of course, Your Excellency. An as yet unknown third party. Obviously, it can only have been someone else who was sitting at the professor's table. You will not let this go, will you? There was no such person. There has to have been. There was, because I saw her. When the incident occurred, we know that the victim couldn't have been eating anything. Yet we have evidence of a half-eaten steak on his table. Therefore, the only logical conclusion is that there was somebody else there eating it. We have strong evidence to support our assertion. It's clear that the witnesses' testimonies are unreliable. If the court decides to push through a ruling at this stage, I will stab everyone in this room. We will lodge a formal complaint with the Ministry of Justice and pursue a fair retrial, relentlessly. Kazuma, are you insane? You would take on the government? Don't worry, Counsel. I have no issue with you. What do you mean? I have issue with them, these two witnesses on the stand. What? What are you talking about? We have demonstrated with evidence that the victim was not alone. So, if it now turns out that the two of you deliberately lied when giving your testimonies, obviously you will be charged with perjury. Perjury? And since this is a murder trial, you will also be deemed complicit in the killing. Complicit in murder? No! Negative. There was no mention of this at the tactical meeting. I was just following orders.
That's right, as the man says. Just say you never saw the gentlewoman. That's what they told us. Oh. What?
What did you just say, Korekuta-san?
Oh, no.
You were just following orders.
Now hold on, lad. I was,
Say you never saw the gentlewoman. When you say gentlewoman, do you mean you saw the victim with a lady from overseas? What? You shouldn't be surprised by this, Ryu. You knew about this lady.
What is the meaning of this? These witnesses gave false statements? Is this true, you pair?
Just one. Just one simple slip of the tongue. Order! Order! Council, explain what is going on here. It is painfully clear now. You tried to prevent these witnesses from telling the truth.
Absolutely not. The prosecution knows nothing of this.
Then who's behind this? Who tried to make you keep your mouths shut?
Well,
That's classified. I love his kid pulling on his mustache. So, you're prepared to be tried as a conspirator to this murder, are you? You wouldn't. Let's just take a moment and enjoy this. This can't be happening. I have to tell the truth. Ryunosuke, you're the father of my child. Ryunosuke, judging from the way they're reacting to this, I'd say they were sworn to silence by someone with considerable influence. However, I don't believe Ouchi had any idea about it. What are you saying? I mean, to wield that kind of influence, there are only a handful of possibilities. It could only have been the government, the military, or the police, I suppose. Well, any ideas about who might be behind this? If we can affirm who tried to silence these witnesses, then we can continue our pursuit. I know who it was. Of course, we'll need evidence before we make any firm accusations. Evidence that proves whoever it was really did wield his or her power here. But how? How can we possibly... It's gotta be in the court record. We examined this piece of evidence in more detail and found a new clue as a result. Oh yes, that's right. Well, that's not the only piece of evidence we have, is it? We need to re-examine everything and make sure there's nothing we've missed. There's no time to lose. I want answers. If it's proven that these witnesses have been manipulated, I assure you the penalty will be severe.
Please, wait, Your Excellency. I had no idea about any of this. I swear to every Shinto god. I knew nothing. Nothing!
What does the defense have to say about all this? Well, Your Excellency, no time to think. I'm just going to have to close my eyes and shout out the first name that comes into my head. Besides the prosecution, the only person with the necessary influence to manipulate the witnesses is...
Yes!
Well, surely that would be Satoru Hosonaga-san. Hosonaga-san, the waiter who took the stand earlier? Poppycock.
Poppycock! What possible reason would the waiter have to make these witnesses give false testimony? Not to mention the fact that even a head waiter could not possibly have that level of influence.
For once, I would agree with you. If, that is, the man truly were a waiter.
What? If he truly were?
Come on, Ryu. Time to hit this court with the truth. The truth about Satoru Hosonaga-san's real identity, as proven by this evidence.
Yes!
Plan of the restaurant sketched by the man in question? I agree, it shows a great deal of attention to detail, but I'm not sure we can conclude anything. Sorry, Your Excellency, that's the back of the card. It's the back of the card that's of interest. I beg your pardon. Or perhaps I should have said the front? Yes, it's the front of the back of the card. That's where the telling detail is. Would somebody please explain what this overexcited student is trying to say? Hosonaga-san sketched the plan of the restaurant on the reverse side of this business card. The front of that business card reveals the man in question's profession, his true profession. The waiter's profession? But that's surely... Good gracious! That's right, Your Excellency. The card reads Chief Inspector, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau.
What? The waiter is a police detective? I haven't heard any mention of this before. Why haven't I heard any mention of this before?
The Imperial Police Bureau has immense power, absolute power as far as regular civilians are concerned. So, witnesses there in the stand? Was it in fact the waiter who gave you your orders? Was it he who told you not to mention that you'd seen this foreign gentlewoman at the scene? Well... It's the waiter. The waiter. Inspector Hosonaga. I was worried something like this may happen. The moment you asked me to submit my sketch as evidence, I realized it was a possibility. Yeah, that was really suspicious. Yes, I remember now. He did act strangely when the judge asked him to hand over his business card. I strive to carry out all investigations flawlessly. It's my guiding principle. But I let myself be distracted when I made that sketch. It was an unusually careless mistake.
Is this guy supposed to be related to Edgeworth? So you mean to say you really are a detective?
Why would a detective be working as a restaurant waiter? Ah, of course. Your salary must be terrible. I was working undercover. Now I'm going with the first explanation. Undercover? Yes, there have been a series of incidents at the restaurant recently. In order to investigate, I decided to get a job there as a waiter, working undercover. Incidents at the restaurant. What kind of incidents? That would be classified police information, which I am not at liberty to divulge. However, I can state categorically that they are unrelated to this case of homicide. Ah, because you're stupid. Very well then, Inspector Hosonaga, but you will elaborate on one point for the court. Who was the gentlewoman sitting across from the victim? We have just heard new information from the two witnesses beside you. That at the time of the shooting, there was in fact another person present at the victim's table. If that is indeed true, clearly you would also have been aware of this person's presence, having served at the table in question. However, your testimony did not allude to this other diner. Therefore, I am led to assume that in your professional capacity as a police officer, you required these witnesses to be in agreement. Would that be correct? Correct, Your Excellency. Unbelievable. As I suspected. As soon as I heard the gunshot, I ran out of the kitchen to see what happened. The victim sat slumped in his chair, and beside him, gun in hand, stood the accused student. Sitting opposite the victim at the same table was a young lady, whom I guessed to be an Englishwoman. So the truth comes out. I immediately sealed off the restaurant and reported the incident to the Bureau. It was then that I received some special orders. Special orders? You mean to say, remove the Englishwoman from the scene at once? It was made clear that the Englishwoman's presence at the restaurant was to be concealed. Those were my orders. Cool. But what if this Englishwoman was the killer? I think it would be in everyone's best interest not to pursue that idea. The Empire views the friendly terms of its relationship with Britain more highly than anything at the moment. An Englishman has been murdered on our soil. To name an Englishwoman as the primary suspect? Well, without irrefutable evidence, that would be completely out of the question. So that's the reason for the disappearance of the phantom woman in this case. But it's not right. One possibility does spring to mind. What do you mean, Kazuma? Yume University is currently hosting a number of exchange students from Great Britain, and I'm fairly certain that one of them is studying in the medical faculty's research laboratory is a young Englishwoman. You're a shrewd man. I can see why you're the chosen candidate for the overseas study tour. You mean, when I removed the woman from the scene of the crime, I thought it prudent to check her identity first. Sure, except you also concealed evidence from the court. The court demands that you name the lady in question at once, Inspector. The Englishwoman sitting at the university professor's table was a certain Miss Josale Brett. Miss Josale Brett. She is indeed a foreign student studying in the research laboratory of Yume University's medical faculty. Huh? What is happening here? I admit that under orders from the police bureau, I erased all evidence of the lady's presence at the scene, and ordered these witnesses to make no mention of her in their testimonies. It must now be up to Your Excellency to decide how to deal with this situation. Very well. My thoughts on the matter are as follows. Thus far, the case presented to the court has been underpinned by a particularly critical premise, namely that the victim was dining alone. However, as we have now discovered that this premise is false, it would be a desecration of our justice system to ignore the truth and give a ruling at this point.
But Your Excellency, that would mean missing the noon deadline of a ruling in order to send the telegraphic report to Great Britain. Our own government will surely be very displeased by such actions.
Calm yourself, Counsel. I will not allow the government of our country or any other to influence the proceedings of my courtroom. Inspector Hosonaga.
Yes, sir.
You will locate this Giselle Brett and restore her and escort her to the courtroom with the utmost urgency. At once, Your Excellency.
That means you'll be going against the special orders you were given from the police bureau.
As I said before, it is my guiding principle to carry out all investigations flawlessly. So it won't be a problem? Nothing will get in my way.
Okay, but you did kind of deliberately conceal this woman from the court. That doesn't sound like a flawless investigation. That sounds like a conspiracy to conceal evidence.
Court will adjourn briefly. The prosecution must call the English student, Giselle Brett, to the witness stand.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Good. Then we will be having a 30-minute recess before reconvening.
You know, it really does occur to me that the clock may have been one of the most influential inventions of all time. When you really think about it, because so much of our society depends on time. There are few pieces of technology that are more impactful. Oh, thank you, B. Excellent work, Ryu. That was superb. My heart was in my mouth the entire time. It was almost unbelievable. I mean, looking at you in there, you were drenched in sweat, your eyes popping, your knees knocking, and you were grinding your teeth. It was a grim sight but before I knew it, you'd started finding inconsistencies in the testimonies. I think you might have a natural talent for being a lawyer. Forget it, it's terrifying. If I get through this, I don't ever want to see the inside of a courtroom again. Anyway, it looks like we've exposed your phantom lady at last. Miss Giselle Brett, a student from Great Britain, is she? That's what I was trying to tell everyone from the start. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone. There was a young woman with him, like I've been saying all along. Yes, you have, haven't you? I might not be overly confident in the courtroom, but my powers of observation are one thing I am sure of. Yes, I can see that. So, about this young gentlewoman. Thanks to our detective friend, she was hastily escorted away from the scene, it seems. Did you see what happened with that? No, I didn't see any of it. I was just on my way out of the restaurant myself. Then, on the floor next to Dr. Wilson's table, I noticed there was a gun lying there. And just after I bent down to pick it up, bang. I didn't have time to think about where the sound of the gunshot had come from. The waiter ran over to me looking white as a sheet, and he bundled me into some sort of small pantry next to the kitchen. Fast thinking by the detective, he apprehended his suspect without a moment's delay. Yes, and because I was shut in the pantry, I have no idea what happened outside the dining area. Thank you for the hydrate, lastborn. Ah, there you are. Well done, both of you. Professor Mitakoba,
Mikotoba. Well, it seems I was right. The pair of you make an outstanding team. You've exceeded my expectations, I have to say.
Yes, it seems you planned this from the start. You arranged things so that I wouldn't be able to act as a lawyer in this trial.
Our modern country is still in its infancy, our justice system even more so. Which is why I firmly believe that we need to send our brightest young stars overseas to learn all they can.
Thank you, I thought it was quite fitting myself.
I wanted to avoid a situation that may have resulted in your study tour to Great Britain being cancelled.
Well, it makes no difference. Lawyer or otherwise, I'm the kind of man who can't help... If I'm the kind of man who can't help his best friend avert the worst crisis of his life, I shouldn't waste everyone's time by going to study overseas anyway.
What? What are you saying, Kazuma?
Oh, wait, that was the wrong.
So that's your stance. I was afraid you'd feel that way.
Kazuma.
Well then, it looks like it all comes down to you, young man.
To me?
Yes, you need to prove your innocence and uncover what really took place in that restaurant. I must say, I very much want to know the truth. After all, I have a personal connection to this case.
Come to think of it, he said the same thing earlier this morning, didn't he? If you don't mind me asking, Professor, did you know the victim?
Yes, I did. As you're probably aware, Dr. John H. Wilson was a visiting professor at UMA, and it was I who invited him.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that before.
Anyway, you're about to go into battle. The victim was a university professor from Great Britain, and a well-known one at that. Naturally, our government is looking to identify and punish the culprit as quickly as possible.
Let's not forget who we're going up against. The gentlewoman whose involvement our police bureau went to extraordinary lengths to hide.
Yes, and I'm sure the prosecution will be using every tool at their disposal to quash your case. I have no doubt that you pair will put up a good fight right to the last. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Now then. I need you to run an errand at the university at once. There's something I think we may need.
Of course. Good luck, Kazuma-sama. So we're just going to keep ignoring who that person is. I wonder if she'll be a spirit medium or if they don't have those in this game.
Defendant Naruhodo. Court recess is over. Please make your way back inside the courtroom at once.
It's time. Let's get back to it, partner. Let's go in there and deal a decisive blow before those old fossils know what hit them. Kazuma? Please keep your sword in its sheath. Thank you, really. But seriously, don't stab anyone in there. That will not look good for my case. What for? Well, if you hadn't said you believed me, then I'm fairly sure I'd already have been found guilty by now. Look, I have faith in you. As a lawyer and as a friend. Coming from you, that means a lot. If I'm found guilty in this trial, he's really going to give up on his dream of studying abroad. That's the kind of true friend he is. So this isn't just my battle anymore. Whoever we're up against, we absolutely cannot afford to lose. Alright then.
I'll save the thank yous for after the trial. You can treat me to one of those sukiyaki meals I like from the Yume cafeteria on University Street. With an extra large portion, of course. I respect that. Give me one sec. Wanted some chocolate. The court hereby resumes the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Prosecutor Ouchi, have you managed to subpoena the witness?
Yes, Your Excellency, against all odds. And thanks to a certain young stripling, the prosecution is now under rather painful scrutiny from the government. Sorry. Let the government scrutinize. That's their job. It's nothing to worry about. It's highly unlikely that the good relations we've forged with Great Britain will emerge from this trial unscathed. Will you still think it's nothing to worry about when the new treaty breaks down and our nation founders?
Again, terribly sorry. If the friendship between our nations is really so fragile, then the treaty isn't worth the paper it's written on. You really have nothing to worry about, Ryu.
What do you mean?
A secret trial, anxiety over some foreign government's opinions, a bungled investigation, missing witnesses. Is this what our nation's justice system is? Is this the Supreme Court of Japan or of England?
Shut up, you jumped up rookie boy. You and your friend know nothing of the situation our nation finds itself in. Your friend is Canadian, for crying out loud. He's already apologized like 4 times in this conversation alone. By aligning ourselves with this great world power, we'll become strong. Diplomacy has never been more critical. Steady political maneuvering is what will secure our futures.
I won't deny that I'm no expert, I'm just a student. I'm one who could arguably study harder, too. There's the Canadian again. But standing here now in our Supreme Court, there's one thing that I feel very strongly. A country that fails to uphold the truth in its justice system is a country with no truth at all. Is a country with no future at all.
Huh?
Well said, Ryu. Despite the wide-eyed look of terror.
You little brats!
Thank you, Counsel. This court is the pinnacle of our nation's justice system and exists solely for the pursuance of the truth. With that in mind, this trial will now resume with the next witness taking the stand. The visiting student from Great Britain, Miss Giselle Brett.
Yes. Your Excellency.
Oh my.
Well, what a delight it is to welcome such a fine gentlewoman to Japan, and from such a distant land.
Tea. Somebody bring English tea. In England, no discussions take place without tea. Is that true? No idea.
So, and could we possibly trouble you to state your name and occupation for the court?
Of course. My name is Satoru Hosonaga. I've been working undercover as the head waiter of La Carnival.
Yes, we know all about you already.
Inspector Hosonaga, where are your manners? In English, it's always ladies first. Is that true? No idea. More importantly, a little earlier today you said something to me. You said your powers of observation are the one thing you're sure of. Oh yes, I think I did, didn't I? Yet your description for this amazing sight was simply a woman. Sorry, Ryu, but powers of observation aside, your powers of description are sorely lacking. Guilty.
So, dear lady, once again, if we may trouble you for your name and occupation.
I'm holding back a joke that might not be appropriate for stream. Really? Okay, so she does not speak Japanese. Or maybe she's just choosing not to, I don't know.
I'm terribly sorry, dear lady, but what?
The lady says her name is Giselle Brett. She comes from London, England. She's a visiting research student currently enrolled in May University's medical faculty.
Oh my, what a rare treat to hear the dulcet tones of the delightful language of the British people. I'm afraid I don't understand a word you said, but it was as beautiful as a hummingbird's song.
I don't think I've ever heard a hummingbird make a song. I do know that when they fly at high speeds, they can make it sound with their butt feathers, though, so that's fun. As far as I can tell, the detective is translating her words faithfully enough. Yes, I agree. You'll obviously do fine in England, Kazuma. Her English doesn't rattle you at all, does it? Nor you. You've clearly been paying attention in your English classes, Ryunosuke. The court thanks the beautiful lady for taking the stand. Now, if we may trouble you to confirm something, Miss Brett. 3 days ago, at a restaurant called La Carnival, a grim murder took place. The court has been led to believe that you were dining there with the victim, Dr. Wilson, at the time. Is that correct? She says yes. This could take some time. So even though she's studying here in Japan, she can't speak any Japanese? She'd like to apologize for disappearing from the scene. She says that she was due to make a presentation at the university, so she had to leave immediately. Interesting, when you're the one who engineered her escape. I was just following special orders from the Bureau. Yeah, that doesn't help. Well now, dear lady, would you be so kind as to cast your eyes over this photographic print? Seeing as you were so unfortunately present at the scene of the crime, could it be that your resplendent eyes caught sight of the wicked perpetrator, perhaps? Apparently, it was a very frightening and sorrowful sight. Do you mean to say? Yes, it would appear the lady did witness the crime. The very moment when the accused, standing right here, there in this courtroom, shot the victim in cold blood.
Order. Order in the court.
Did you hear that, Your Excellency? Here we have an absolutely conclusive witness statement.
Well, it looks like it's clear now. Clear who our real enemy is.
Unfortunately, I will have to ask you to formally testify if you please. Kindly tell the court the exact nature of this frightening and sorrowful sight you described.
A frightening and sorrowful sight. I had arranged to meet for a slightly late luncheon with Dr. Wilson that day. The professor was unable to eat, so I ordered for myself only a beef steak. After a while, the accused came over to greet the professor, and they got into a fierce argument. Then, not long afterwards, the accused took the professor's gun and shot him right before my eyes. I don't carry a gun myself, so obviously I couldn't have been the culprit.
Yes! Objection!
Quiet, you filthy wretch. Look at you, you black-hearted blackguard, and look at this snow-white angel. I'm sure even a dark-minded scoundrel like you can imagine whose words the court is going to believe.
You're still making the same mistakes, Ryu. You mustn't blurt out when you're goaded like that. That's a lesson you need to learn. But he's so annoying. Of course, I was at the scene as well. I took statements from this lady and the two witnesses who testified before, and reported back to the Bureau. It was decided that Miss Brett was not involved, so I let her go. And did your two witnesses mention anything about the argument that this lady claims to have witnessed? Testimony of the last two witnesses were completely worthless, however. Well, even so, on the day in question, the lady was wearing the same outfit as she is today. As you can see, there is nowhere about her person where she could conceal a firearm. It's in her hat. It's definitely in her hat. I would think she could hide a gun almost anywhere in that outfit if she wanted to.
Unless and until the precise location where the witness is to have hidden a weapon can be shown, this is moot.
There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. Again, you are wearing a swan on your head. And you're going to shoot me with it. I already know. Those are the witness's own words on the matter. That's ridiculous. If only I was allowed to lift up her... Ryu, no. Don't think about doing anything rash, Ryu. But I didn't fire the gun I picked up. There must have been another gun there that day. You're right about that, which means this lady was hiding a gun somewhere. Yes, that's what we have to prove now. And to do so, we will need to pull her testimony apart. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. Oh, yes, Your Excellency. Yeah, there weren't any obvious lies or contradictions there, so we will probably have to press quite thoroughly. But first,
Yes!
after 2 p.m. in fact, that's really quite a late lunch, isn't it?
Richard!
You don't keep up with the latest fashions from Britain, do you?
Oh, you don't keep up with the latest fashions from Britain, do you? Late luncheons are in vogue, isn't that right?
No. Huh. Decisive English no has quite a sting to it. The gentlewoman is currently working in the victim's research laboratory, it seems, so it was apparently a daily occurrence that they would lunch together. But on the day in question, the victim had another appointment at the clinic first. Yes, which we can prove from the medical report card that was submitted as evidence earlier. That's right, Miss Brett and the victim went to lunch following the victim's treatment, which is why it was so late. We don't have anything new on the court record, do we? I mean, we've got her. Yes, that all makes perfect sense.
Such wonderful logic. What a shining example of English intelligence this fine woman is. I mean,
could you please have a shred of dignity of some kind? Instead of brown-nosing the English this hard? So you both arrived at the restaurant. What happened next?
Yes!
He was unable to eat, you say? And that was because he just had a tooth removed at Hata Clinic, correct? That's right. You're supposed to actually check with the witness before answering. Was Miss Brett aware of that fact? It seems so, yes. She'd heard that the professor was to have some dental treatment. So that would mean that it was you who ate the steak pictured here. Is that right, Miss Brett? That's right, yes. The print you have there shows the table exactly as it was left after the horrifying events. Exactly as it was left.
dear me, what a harrowing experience. To have traveled to a distant island on the far side of the world and be embroiled in such a tragic incident. Have no fear, my lady. I swear I will crush the evil fiend that has subjected you to this terrible plight.
So the victim, Dr. Wilson, had nothing to eat or drink at all. That's right. Other than some carbonated water. Just water? Yes, the professor was unable to eat, but he had been given permission to drink water. Hang on. So where's his cup, then? There should have been a cup on the table. Because, like, that's hers. It's the only thing that makes sense. Because it's at her spot. So it appears that the Dinners toasted their lunch with a glass of water each. They each raised a glass of carbonated water. Well, that statement of yours, Miss Brett, has a profound bearing on this case.
Well, how fascinating. Do tell us what is this profound bearing?
Significance of the statement will become apparent when the time is right. Defense calls for the witness's last statement to be formally added to the testimony.
Well sidestepped, counsel.
Very well, Miss Brett. Kindly repeat what you just said to be added to your official testimony. Gladly, she said. That was brilliant, Cosima. I'm going to remember that one. Which one? Significance will become apparent when the time is right. I could really use that phrase. I'd hope there are some more useful tips you're picking up from this experience than that, Rio. Alright. And therein lies the contradiction.
Yes!
That's it. Let me just confirm something, please. It's to do with this photographic print. He swallowed the bullet, and the electrical impulses in his heart caused it to ignite and fire out of his chest. Just a short while ago, you spoke of this print showing the victim's table at the crime scene, but it was exactly as it was left. That is correct, the lady says. Well, that is... It's odd, very odd.
Hear me, what's odd is the defense's inability to express itself.
Okay, that is true, but you didn't have to call him out like that. Ryunosuke, what is it about the print that looks odd to you? Well, obviously, it's the cheers. The cheers? Miss Brett just told us that she and the professor said cheers over a glass of water. But if that's true, there should be 2 glasses on the table. Not one. Ah. You're quite right, Counsel. There's only 1 glass pictured here.
Are we supposed to be impressed by this nitpicking over minutia? What possible difference does the presence or absence of a glass make on the case?
Objection!
Minutia, you say? Could it be that the detective here removed a glass from the table to conceal the lady's presence? Of course not. I would never do something so reckless, I say, after having hidden a key witness to the crime. But there should have been 2 glasses on the table. Or are you going to try and tell me you can clink with only 1? You're quite right. I'm certain I certainly took 2 glasses to the table. Inspector, what did the lady say? It would seem that it was Miss Brett who took the glass from the table. And it's time to see that glass submitted into evidence. It was all so terrifying, everything that happened. I panicked and thought I should try to hide the fact that I had been there at all, she's saying. Good gracious. Sorry.
Here, as I assured the court before, this is of no consequence at all.
Oh, please.
We must remember that the student had just murdered this lady's luncheon companion before her very eyes. Who could blame her for concealing a glass or 2 in her state of disarray?
That doesn't sound like a state of disarray. It's not something that you think of in the moment that you witness a murder. It's something that you think of in the moment that you commit a murder. That's absurd.
Oh, really? So do we take it that you are now going to accuse this vulnerable, young and beautiful woman of mischief? What? No, 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 this can't be put down to mischief. I'd like to know exactly how the lady took the glass from the scene. It would seem that she slipped it into a small handbag she was carrying. Yup. A handbag, you say? Yes, Your Excellency, a small handheld pouch commonly carried by well-to-do women in England. After she testified that she had nowhere she could have kept a gun. So the beautiful lady has very graciously explained how and why she removed the glass from the scene now. However, the fact remains that this glass has absolutely no bearing on the case. The handbag has pretty significant bearing on the case. This student has been trying to confuse the court with logical reasoning, but in the end it comes to nothing. No more pretentious accusations. You have wasted enough time already.
Indeed, the lady has offered a satisfactory explanation as to why she removed this glass. I think henceforth we can consider the matter to have no bearing on the case. Counsel for the defense, are you in agreement? Well, if you want to pursue this matter further, you're going to need to show that it has some deeper significance. Yes, you're right. So she took the glass away in her handbag. If there's a deeper significance there, it's the handbag. Wait, the lady put the glass in her handbag, you say? Yes, do try to keep up. It's already been explained to the court that all English gentlewomen carry handbags for small items. Let me see. A little while ago, Miss Brett stated the following. There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. But what she forgot to mention was her handbag. He seems so surprised every time he smacks the table. One of these days he'll learn how to get a satisfying thump out of it, in which it would be perfectly possible to conceal a gun. You're right. Well done, partner. I had a feeling you'd pick up on that too. What are you insinuating, you vile blackguard? It's really very simple. The gunshot was heard when the defendant picked up the gun from the restaurant floor. As he didn't fire that gun, we can deduce there must have been another firearm at the scene. A true murder weapon, if you will.
You can't seriously be suggesting that the lady I'm simping over so hard is a murderer?
Inspector Hosonaga? Yes? Did you or did you not search Miss Jessael Brett's handbag on the day of the murder? No, sir. I did not. As I thought. In other words, another gun, the one that was actually used to kill the professor, could have been hidden in Miss Brett's handbag.
No!
Order, order, order! Listen to my deep, commanding voice.
What is the meaning of this, Inspector? I thought you said this Canadian would never fight back.
Meaning of what, Prosecutor Ouchie?
Why on earth did you not have the lady open her handbag and show you the contents at the time?
Thank you for the hydrate, last warrant.
Thanks to your bungling incompetence, she now has to endure these uncomfortable accusations.
It's in her hat. Come on, guys. Brilliant work, partner. Now we have a chance to expose the real woman behind the mask. You'll need a warrant for that? And just knock the hat off, call it an accident. Do you think so, Kazuma? I'm sorry, I need to briefly regurgitate a large quantity of hemoglobin. Well, what a sorry situation. Clearly you have no faith in the police. As I said, I did not search the lady's handbag after the shooting, simply because it was unnecessary. Unnecessary in what way? I have to thank the student lawyer, really. I have a piece of evidence here that I had completely forgotten about. This photographic print. This print is of a photograph that I thought would be prudent to take immediately after the shooting. Hang on. Okay, real quick. Notice his hand there. It's just above my image. That looks similar to a tattoo. But if we look at this picture, it is identical to that symbol. Which means at some point he put her hand across that plate, and that got burned into his wrist. As you can see, it clearly shows Miss Brett's handbag, which is transparent. Well, I never. You can see through to what's inside. But why would she carry a handbag when she didn't have anything inside it? Also, who has a handbag with nothing inside it? There's always something in there. At the very least, there's chapstick. Obviously, that's unlikely for her, but, like, she would be carrying some sort of perfumes or something in her handbag. That's right. Apparently, meshwork bags like these are the height of fashion in London at the moment. So the contents are clearly visible. Exactly, so there was no need to search the lady's handbag. If there had been a gun inside, it would have been immediately obvious. Yeah, because she stuffed it in her hat while you were hiding this guy. While you were hiding Ryu. As you can see, there's nothing to imply Miss Brett's guilt here. Oh, but there is something. There's a concerning detail. Thank you for helping to prove that, Naruhodo-san. Ah!
Order! Order! Inspector Hosonaga, you will submit that print as evidence at once.
Certainly, Your Excellency. Photograph of the handbag has been entered into the court record.
I think you've had long enough to cross-examine the witness, counsel. The court has now been shown considerable evidence. As the photographic print just submitted to the court record appears to have no further significance, I am satisfied that there is no longer any room for doubt in this matter and must make my ruling.
Oh, but there is significance.
Indeed, and there's only one logical conclusion. That the pathetic rookie slumped over the bench before us is the only possible perpetrator of the crime.
No. Just when I thought I was beginning to turn things around. I'm in a worse situation than I was at the start. Kazuma? He's thinking. Oh, no, he's not. He's given up. I'm sorry, Ryu. Now that the cross-examination of the witness is over, there's no way to force the trial to continue. What? You mean this is it?
I must say you put up quite a fight for a rookie student, but the weak are meat while the strong eat. You were wasting your time. There is no way to defeat true justice. In fact, you can chew on to your heart's content from the inside of your cell.
This can't be happening. Am I really going to be found guilty of a crime that I didn't commit? And Kazuma, his dream of going to study in Great Britain will slip through his fingers. Kazuma? What? Is there really no chance now of turning this trial around? You heard the judge. There's nothing about that last photograph the detective produced that we can contest, which means there's no basis on which we can argue for the trial to continue. Oh, but there is. Very well, I will now proceed immediately to the ruling.
It seems we will be able to report to the British government on time after all.
That smug little... Kazuma, keep your sword in its sheath. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, having considered all the evidence... Ooh. Wait, Your Excellency. Hang on just real quick. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, having considered all of the evidence placed before me, I hereby find you... Ryu? I don't think you can rule on this case yet.
This amateurishness is getting tedious. When His Excellency deems that the trial is over, he gives his ruling. That is the most basic protocol of the courtroom.
Your Excellency, just a moment ago you said this. As the photographic print submitted appears to have no further significance, there's no longer any room for doubt in this matter, and I must make my ruling. Now that means if there was a problem with the evidence, some significant detail I mean, then the ruling on the case at this time would be out of the question.
This is blatant straw clutching. Look at this photographic print. All it shows is the handbag the gentlewoman was carrying on the day in question. There can be no problem with this evidence.
Oh, but there is. You better know what you're doing, Ryu. Also, how did they take this in an age before, like, personal cameras were really a thing? How did the detective just happen to have a camera on him? I understand your objection, counsel. Certainly the new evidence submitted by the detective has not undergone the court's scrutiny. However, I fail to see how we can glean any new information from this handbag.
My thoughts exactly. Really, the prosecution is becoming tired of this rookie's desperate wheezes.
Yes, I am desperate, but this isn't a wheeze. There's something about this photograph which just doesn't seem right. If only I could put my finger on it. Very well, I will grant the defense one final opportunity.
What?
Okay, that's a pretty epic moment right there. He's just clapping his gavel into his hand. But be warned that if I am unsatisfied by your response here, the trial will be over with immediate effect. Yes, Your Excellency. So, take another look at the photographic print Inspector Hosonaga submitted before. You will identify the court where in this print we see the significant detail to which you have alluded. Look at this here. There's a very unusual mark on the victim's wrist. That is true. It looks almost like a burn of some description.
Dear me, I was pondering what new piffle you would come out with. A burn, you say, on the victim's wrist? Clearly has nothing to do whatsoever with the magnificent lady's handbag.
Yes, that is a burn mark, you're right. Go on, Inspector. The police coroner also noticed it when he was performing the post-mortem examination. It was deemed unrelated to the cause of death, so he didn't note it in his report.
What did I tell you? In any case, we have no idea when the victim suffered the burn, do we? And no possible way of knowing either. The more I look at it, the more I find myself...
The more I look at it, the more I find myself intrigued by the curious shape of this mark. However, as Prosecutor Ouchie points out, unless a firm connection to the case can be shown, I cannot allow any further time to be spent on the precise details of this burn. Excuse me, Your Excellency. It would seem Miss Brett has a lunch appointment with the Dean and other university staff. She would like to know if she may be excused from the stand now.
Oh, of course, dear lady. We shan't hold you up any longer. I'm quite sure His Excellency is about to give his final ruling anyway.
What's your thinking on this? Do you believe this burn has something to do with the case? To be honest, I'm not really sure. But if I don't keep pushing, then it's all over. So I was thinking I should keep digging and digging, in the hope that I might uncover something useful. Yes, you're right.
I am?
If we can just link that burn to the case, if we can do that, we might be able to prise this shutting door back open again.
Just give up, Counsel. You can't possibly hope to do that.
Indeed, I am afraid that without evidence, I can't allow you to pursue what is little more than conjecture. So, just to be clear, there is a reason that I'm saving so frequently. But if we had evidence that irrefutably linked the burn on the victim's wrist to the case, then you would allow it? I would, yes. To tell the truth, I hadn't noticed that burn. But as soon as you pointed it out, what I did notice was the color draining from Miss Brett's face. Really? I have to find some link between that burn and the case. This is the moment of truth. Time to find some evidence that proves what that burn really means. So then, the defense will now present its evidence to the court. The evidence that demonstrates an inexplicable connection between the victim's burn and this trial. Oh, sweet, I can just save in the moment. That would have been nice to realize. Anyway, the thing that proves that this burn is connected to the case is that I Oh, hang on, I haven't actually inspected this. You may not come in. Number 901.
Anyway, the reason that this is connected to the case is because I'm a student. Five highly illuminating words. Ah, but can she prove that she's a student? Because I don't see a pin on her. Alright. We'll load back from there. There it is. Oh. That's an interesting option.
Yes!
What's this, Council? Yet another print?
Yes, Your Excellency. I believe photographic prints are an amazing invention. When we humans look at a scene, we miss things. But in a photograph, things we may have overlooked at the time are recorded forevermore.
Do hurry up, Rookie. What are you trying to say? To inconvenience this poor lady any further really would be quite inexcusable.
Actually, we may need you to stay with us a little longer, if you don't mind, Miss Brett. You see, it's very clearly visible in this other photograph. How did the victim come to have that unusually shaped burn on his wrist? The reason is recorded here forevermore. What hell?
You can't fool me with your little bluffs, boy. If that's your game, then let's see how it plays out. Show the court exactly what you mean. What is it in this photograph that explains the reason for the victim's burn?
Yes!
The beef steak?
Actually, the point is the metal plate the steak was served on. The plate? Ah.
Your Excellency, are you all right?
As you can see, there's an emblem on the plate. I would guess it's some sort of trademark of Le Carnival. This emblem on the plate and the victim's burn are exactly the same shape. Ryunosuke, you're a genius. You're spot on. Which means the victim must have suffered this burn while he was present at the restaurant.
Objection!
But even if that's the case, we can't know if it happened on the day in question or not. It could have been the day before, or the day before that. It most likely happened at some other unrelated time.
That is baseless conjecture. Well,
Objection!
Sadly, Prosecutor Ouchie, the chances of that are extremely slim. If it had happened at another time, he would have gotten some sort of treatment for it. You wouldn't just be wandering around with a burn on your wrist and do nothing about it.
Why?
The outline of the burn is clearly discernible. Such a serious injury would have caused quite a commotion in the restaurant. Wouldn't you agree, Inspector Hosanaka? I can't imagine having missed such a terrible disaster, certainly.
But...
I would say, looking at the picture of the wound, that it wasn't suffered very long ago. And although it's not a particularly large burn, it's extremely well defined, as the defense just pointed out. This was no mild burn, that's for sure. Can you be more specific, Inspector? Well, let's see. If the plate was at around 90 degrees centigrade, a burn like that would have taken around 3 seconds. It's inconceivable that the victim wouldn't have let out a scream of pain then. I've been investigating at the restaurant for several weeks already, but I've not heard anyone scream at all. As the head waiter of La Carnival, I can testify to that without hesitation.
But you're a detective, not a waiter.
Well, he has been working as the waiter. I'm pretty confident that he's both. There you have it. Something isn't right here. As the detective said, wait, the guy was drugged. She didn't take her own glass, she took his. Because she had drugged him. And that was how he didn't scream out when he was burned. Anyone who burns themselves on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds would scream in pain. There's no question of that. And yet Inspector Hosonaga never heard the professor scream. Not on that day or any before it. That's right. And the strange thing is, on the day he was shot, I didn't hear him cry out either. What are you suggesting? Oh, but he was anesthetized. Remember his medical report. Well, if the professor had carelessly laid his wrist on the plate for anything like 3 seconds that day, that would be beyond careless, I think, Counsel. Then the rest of us in the restaurant, myself, the sergeant, and the old antique dealer, all of us would, without any question, have heard him scream. Wouldn't you agree, Prosecutor Ouchie?
Well, yes, I suppose.
So the question is, why wouldn't a single person hear Dr. Wilson scream? I almost don't believe it. Ryunosuke, do you think... Okay, so either he was drugged, or it was the anesthesia. If it was laughing gas, then it wasn't localized anesthesia. I never dreamt we'd arrive at a conclusion like this, but I'm starting to think that maybe we've been led into a terrible trap. There's only one explanation I can think of to make sense of this apparent impossibility. On the day in question, when he suffered the burn to his wrist, Dr. Wilson... that he was already deceased is probably the best option here. I am going to drop a save real quick. No man could remain silent while his wrist was burning on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds. That's clearly impossible, apart from in one particular situation. Counsel, are you suggesting? Yes, it's only possible if the man was already dead. Already dead? Okay, so let's see if I can get that. Let's see if I can get this right. Ryu went and talked to him. They had a little chat. He went back to his table, finished his coffee, and was about to leave. In that window of time after he had gone back to his table, the lady had poisoned him. He was already dead. And she dropped his gun onto the ground. And as soon as someone picked it up to try and bring it to his attention, she had her alibi, or she had someone to blame, and she put a bullet in him to draw attention to his death,
to make it look like he died from the bullet, when in reality, he was already dead when he was shot. When the beefsteak was brought to Dr. Wilson's table that day, the professor was already dead.
That's madness!
Order! Order, please! Council, explain this absurd notion at once. The victim was killed by a gunshot.
That's right, that's absolutely right, Your Excellency. This is just another ridiculous ploy by the rookie student, but clearly he has no grasp of the facts,
except if he was killed by a gunshot, then when did he get the burn?
Objection!
It doesn't work. No, Prosecutor Ouchie, it's you who has no grasp of the facts.
I beg your pardon!
As soon as it became apparent that the victim had suffered that burn while at the restaurant, this whole case was turned upside down, or have you not grasped that yet? Your Excellency, the court must hear from this witness again. If it's true, as we now believe, that the victim was already dead before the gunshot was heard, it's highly likely that Miss Breton knows something about it.
Incredible. I certainly didn't anticipate this twist of events. I'm sorry to say, Miss Brett, that you will have to forget your luncheon engagement.
But your Excellency, please, I'm simping over here.
The justice system in our country may be in its infancy, but rest assured, all reasonable doubt must be dispelled before I am prepared to pass judgment.
Thank you, Your Excellency. What was that smile? Yes, of course. I mean, I'd be delighted to help. Especially if it helps relations between my country and yours. My country and yours. Ah, Miss Brett, you speak Japanese? Well, of course I do. I'm studying in your country, after all.
But then why have you been speaking through an interpreter until now?
My mother tongue, the Queen's English, is the most refined and elegant language in the world. As a gentlewoman, I try to avoid speaking in your vulgar tones as much as possible. Yeah, that's kind of racist. Anyway. But it seems the men in this land possess none of the chivalrous virtues of English gentlemen, so I can see that I shall have to lower myself to communicating with you all on your own level. Oh, well, you are the epitome of a true English gentlewoman. We are truly honored by this lavish consideration you so graciously afford us. Look, I'm just trying to justify my simping over here, okay? Try to go along with it, please, everyone.
I see. In that case, Miss Brett, I will now ask you to testify in your own words about the events leading up to the death of the victim, Dr. Wilson.
So, we're finally going to hear her own words on the matter. Things are getting interesting, Ryunosuke. Witness testimony. The victim's death.
Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burnt his wrist like that. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses in a toast. As far as I've heard, the post-mortem report showed no other possible cause of death besides the gunshot. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me. But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques probably wouldn't pick up on it anyway. That most captivating and beautiful testimony will go down in the Supreme Court's history. Thank you. Easy does it. I hope that is the last time I will have to sully my lips with the coarse tones of your unbecoming tongue. Oh, forgive me. I do hope I haven't insulted anyone. No, not at all. It is a delight merely to hear you speak, my lady. Truthfully, I relish being insulted by you. I'm kind of into that. It's pretty weird. And it seems very clear from your testimony that this boorish talk of the victim's burn is utterly irrelevant. I will be speaking to your country's Minister of Justice about what has happened here today. The Minister of Justice? May that irritating little bully of a student be given the harshest punishment possible. Amen. Thanks? Is that a prayer, then? Well, you'll have to forgive the irritation, Miss Brett, and put up with the cross-examination now. I expect you've noticed that this little bully of a student, as you put it, doesn't miss much. If you fail to demonstrate any problems with this witness's testimony, I will be ruling on the case immediately. Is that clear? Yes, Your Excellency. Then you may proceed with the cross-examination. Okay, this is the one.
Yes!
Okay, I was premature there.
Yes!
Without leaving a trace. Someone is shot, or strangled, or stabbed, or thrown from a height. However a person's life is taken, there are always telltale traces on the body. Quite right, dear lady. And as our police force has thoroughly examined the body of the deceased, there can be no doubt. Isn't that right, Inspector Hosanaga? As I've said, I always aim for a flawless investigation, so somehow you missed poison. There would be physical traces with all those causes of death, that's true. But maybe there's some other way of killing someone that doesn't leave a mark. If, heaven forbid, you doubt me, young man, you're going to have to tell everyone how exactly you think the professor did lose his life. Otherwise, I'm afraid your argument falls rather flat, doesn't it? Oh no, perish the thought, calling such a sweet young lady's innocence into question. On my honor, I, Takasuchi Ouchi, will cut down any who dare cast such aspersions. M'lady? A way of killing someone that leaves no trace. We need some evidence to back us up here. Yes, evidence. I'm going to keep pressing. Inferior? What do you mean by that? In the lands of the Great British Empire, the police store everything found at a crime scene for later investigation. But this country, you investigate once and that's the end of it. Isn't it so? Quite right. Le Carnival is open for business as usual today, just days after the incident. Exactly, which means that even if the investigation takes a different direction, vital evidence may be lost. Like, she has a point here. I'm not going to argue with that. It doesn't even occur to your native detectives to try to preserve the crime scene. I'm trying to be as tactful about this as I can, you understand. A killer blow. The lady is as formidable as she is beautiful. Amazing. He's actually admitting our police may be flawed. Perhaps Prosecutor Ouchie is finally starting to see sense. I very much doubt that. Yeah, he's just simping, dude. Still, there's something about what Miss Brett just said. There was a moment before when something didn't seem quite right. Kazuma? What, Ryu? There is one thing I noticed, something that's been bothering me. Bothering you? You mean about Miss Brett? Actually, no. About the person standing next to her, Inspector Hosanaga. The detective? Yes, he seemed to react a little strangely to Miss Brett's last statement. I was wondering if it might be significant, if it might present an opening, maybe. Alright, I have an idea. Try pressing her on that last statement one more time. If you think so, but this time instead of targeting the woman herself, let's see what we can get out of the detective. Alright then, I wonder what Kazuma's thinking. Oh, hang on. We'd have to go through that whole conversation again. Okay, so I can't change who I'm looking at. Ah.
Yes!
Wait.
Up until now, the detective has been in the stand with Miss Brett as her interpreter. But things are very different now. For this testimony, the detective is just listening to what the Englishwoman has to say. This could be a golden opportunity. What do you mean? When people are actually testifying, they're usually very careful not to let anything slip. However, when they're listening to someone else speak, you'll find they often let their guard down. You're right, look at him. He's lost in his own thoughts. It's time to pursue the man in his train of thought. Sorry, pursue? I'll explain how to do it now, Ryunosuke. It's all to do with the witness marker. The marker? At the moment, we're focused on Miss Brett, who's the person actually making the current statement. But by moving that marker left and right with A and D, you can turn your attention to people in the stand. Pursue them with space. This is new. This wasn't in Ace Attorney.
Wait.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Yeah, what's the meaning of this? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to shock you. He really was lost in his thoughts deeply. It looked like you were thinking something just now, Inspector. Perhaps having heard what the lady next to you had to say? If there's something you like to say, please share it with the court. What is the meaning of this? It's the delightful Englishwoman who's testifying at the moment. If you can't find fault with her testimony, then the cross-examination should be over immediately. Oh, is that how it works? Absolutely not. The detective is in the stand, which makes him a valid witness. Yes, not to mention the fact that he's intimately involved in the case. Inspector Hosonaga. Yes? You have something to add in relation to the statement just made by Miss Brett. Well, yes, if you don't mind, I would like to speak. The lady is right. Our country's police practices are not as modern as those used in Great Britain. Which is why I, Satoru Hosonaga, always strive to make every investigation I'm involved in flawless. What do you really mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean. I won't have evidence lacking on my watch. I'm not afraid to take everything I can from the scene of the crime. It's preserving evidence, you see. I don't care if they call me a crime scene thief. I'm not ashamed of what I've done. Okay, but you did try to conceal a key witness. I don't mind you keeping evidence so that it can be referenced later, but you concealed the key witness. A crime scene thief. Well, it looks like the lady's remarks touched a nerve there. Take this, for example. This is the bottle of carbonated water that I took to the victim's table on the day in question. And yes, it's lost all of its fizz, having been open 3 days now. But it was carbonated water. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, there's some left in the bottle, I can see it. One day, our police force will be among the best in the world. The time is coming, I guarantee it. Ahem. I can't say I condone the witness's actions, but I do understand the sentiment. The court will accept the glass bottle of water as evidence. Carbonated water bottle. Time to examine it. It doesn't say carbonated water. Written in a foreign language. Do you know what it says? I think it's French. This must be very expensive water. Yes, but what does it say? And go to France and ask. You could just say that you don't know. What about the water itself? So this carbonated water is the last drink Wilson ever had. Looks like there's a little left in the bottle, although it's just plain water now. Now I've been sweating so much I'm absolutely parched. I'll just have a sip of this to keep me going. No, Ryunosuke, you can't do that. For one thing, that's evidence. You can't go drinking evidence. Oh, no, you're right. We don't know what might be inside, do we? You never cease to amaze me, Ryu. In more ways than one. I wonder, could there be anything in this water? What's the matter? You've gone quiet all of a sudden. I think I might have just worked something out. An interesting possibility. Dang it, I can't pour it out. Can you confirm this is indeed the bottle from which you drank on the day of the victim's death? Yes, it was that bottle. What was that about? She seemed to avert her eyes when she answered the judge's question. Very well. Counsel, you may resume the cross-examination. And the inspector will kindly control his fervor. Ahem.
Oh, lunch. I had chili, and I also picked up a bowl of mixed fruit while I was out grocery shopping. So I had various melons as well. It was good. Still have some in the fridge. Unfortunately, now we have what we need to present.
Yes!
Melons, yes. What is this? A bottle of water? Actually, there is one method of killing a man without leaving a trace that comes to mind. Yep, vodka. She killed him with alcoholism. All she did was go back in time, make sure that his father abused him, introduced him to drinking, and then made sure that he was always able to drink for the rest of his life, until finally it destroyed his liver and he died right there on that day. Exactly, Lastborn. It's foolproof. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, I'm worrying. No. Oh my gosh. This Canadian doesn't get it. It's alcoholism. It's not water, it's vodka. And it's not poison, it's alcoholism. Poison? On the day of his death, we know that Dr. Wilson drank from this bottle of carbonated water. Could it be that there was poison inside? Could it be that the professor actually died after taking a sip from his glass? And she took hers to hide the fact that she hadn't taken a sip. Or maybe she was just trying to conceal her presence. Order, order, order. And on that day, who was sitting at the same table as the professor, and able to slip the poison into his drink? There's only one person who could possibly have done it. Now, I think she... It's interesting. Did she poison the bottle and then not drink it? Or did she poison his glass, in which case she took it to hide the poison? Giselle Brett, it was you.
Objection!
This is outrageous to suggest such a thing without a scrap of evidence. You rookie imbecile, have you even considered the delicate situation our country finds itself in now? Plus, the delicate situation I find myself in now. I'm trying to simp for this girl. Have you forgotten that we have only just signed an accord of friendship with the British Empire? Have you even the vaguest inkling what your rash accusations That your rash accusations could jeopardize the entire treaty?
Objection!
This is not a political arena. This is a trial to determine one individual's guilt with respect to one crime.
What?
The fact that this woman is British makes no difference. We are here to determine the truth.
Ugh.
If I may,
I will silence you forever for this disgraceful...
hang on,
For this disgraceful attack on the lovely young... Shut up!
it is you who should be silent.
Of course. Dear lady...
Where did that come from? She just snapped. I'm afraid I may have spoken unfairly before. I offer my most humble apologies. I'm sorry, my lady, but to what are you referring? I described your police force as inferior. But no matter how inferior they may be, you still investigated this particular point thoroughly, I believe. The bottle, I mean, Inspector, and whether it contained poison or not? He did. Of course. You did? Have you forgotten what my guiding principle is already? I strive for a flawless investigation every time. I don't believe it. Naturally, we tested the inside of the bottle and its contents. And what did you find, Inspector? I ordered tests for every toxin that's available in this country at the present time. But we could find no trace of poison of any description in the bottle of carbonated water, Your Excellency. What? Are you sure? The tests were meticulously carried out by the chief coroner himself. No. No!
Oh, come on, Ryu. It's obvious what happened here.
I'm very grateful to all you Japanese. You successfully established my complete innocence in this horrid affair. Thank you.
But of course, dear lady, the pleasure was all ours.
Objection. This can't be right. Everything falls into place if he was poisoned. Thank you, counsel. I think the cross-examination has clarified everything. As the prosecution have asserted, a shot to the chest from the gun is the only conceivable cause of death. Furthermore, the accused, who by his own admission was holding this weapon, is the only possible culprit. I'm done for. The court wishes to apologize for the great inconvenience this has caused you, Miss Brett. Oh no, I'm just glad the matter is resolved. Before proceeding, I must ask the counsel for the defense. Do you have any further new evidence to present to the court at this point? Kazuma? I'm sorry, Ryunosuke. I have nothing more. Well, if you'll excuse me, I really must be leaving. Excuse you, Kazuma is not the counsel for the defense. Please, wait. Isn't that... What is the meaning of this? Forgive me for intruding on court proceedings, Your Excellency. Sasuto Mikotoba, Judicial Assistant to the Defense. Mikotoba. In my darkest hour, with nowhere left to go, she appeared like a bolt of lightning. And in her hand, she carried a small package wrapped in furoshiki cloth. I have no idea what that is. Obviously, it's some kind of cloth, but... Really?
I think we're going to have to call the stream there, guys.
How much longer could this realistically be? You know what? We're going to be playing through this game a good bit. I think we will leave it on that. I think we'll leave it on that cliffhanger. Pick it up next time. In the meantime, thanks everyone for being here. I am enjoying this. These are the kinds of twists and turns that make the Ace Attorney game so great. Even if, in a lot of cases, it's kind of obvious to the person playing. There will be times when it's not, from what I've seen in the Phoenix Wright trilogy. So, I'm looking forward to this. I do hope everyone enjoyed, though. It's been a good time, and we'll pick this up next week. So, thanks for being here. I appreciate y'all. I apologize for my sniffles today. Obviously, I'm still getting over my cold a little bit. But I appreciate y'all, and I hope to see you next time. Later, folks.